Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing and captivating topics in the world of coin collecting, a journey that pulls you into the realm of unexpected treasures, mysterious minting mistakes, and unbelievable valuations that turn an ordinary, everyday item into something worth millions. And today, we are exploring the incredible story, possibilities, myths, and numismatic wonder behind the 1993 D1 cent coin that is said to be worth a staggering $11 million because of its rare, unusual, and almost impossible errors and mistakes that many collectors dream of discovering. And as we walk through this fascinating exploration, we'll unravel how such a simple copper-plated zinc penny minted in Denver during a year of massive production could theoretically, under the right extraordinary circumstances, be elevated to the level of a priceless collectible, a dream coin that defies expectations and sparks the imagination, drawing people from all over the world into the thrill of checking their pocket change, hunting through coin rolls, and hoping that one day they may stumble upon the ultimate rarity, the kind of mint error masterpiece that transforms a coin from a 1 cent piece into a multi-million dollar treasure. And as we take you deeper into the world of 1993 D cents, we begin by welcoming you into a narrative that blends the excitement of discovery with the intrigue of hidden mint errors, the possibilities of manufacturing anomalies, and the incredible factors that could justify such a legendary price tag. And we invite you to imagine the journey of a coin minted more than 3 decades ago, in a year where billions of cents rolled off the presses without the slightest hint that a few, maybe only one, maybe none, could emerge with flaws so dramatic that collectors would compete fiercely for ownership, driving the hypothetical value into the realm of 8-digit figures. And what kind of errors could make such a thing possible? What kind of minting accidents would elevate the humble 1993 D penny into the category of numismatic royalty? And that is where the story becomes both thrilling and deeply complex, because mint errors come in countless forms, from small imperfections that barely attract attention to massive, visually obvious blunders that instantly command attention from collectors and experts alike. And when we talk about an $11 million penny, we are absolutely talking about a once-in-a-lifetime error. The type of mint-produced phenomenon that surpasses ordinary mistakes like small die chips or minor off-centering, and instead reaches into the territory of ultra-rarities such as double denomination strikes, dramatic broad strikes, multiple planchet errors, mule dies, experimental materials, and unique production anomalies that combine into a perfect storm of rarity, desirability, visual impact, and historical importance. And as we explore these possibilities, we begin with the concept of a mule error, one of the most legendary types of mint errors ever produced, where the obverse and reverse of a coin originate from mismatched denominations. And though extremely rare, mule coins have occurred throughout minting history. And if in 1993, D penny were accidentally struck with the reverse die of another coin, such as a dime or a foreign denomination, the result could be a truly extraordinary hybrid piece, a coin so unusual that experts might consider it unique. And uniqueness is one of the most powerful drivers of value in the coin world. And when something is unique, irreplaceable, unmatched in its characteristics, collectors with deep pockets are often willing to pay sums that seem unbelievable to the average person. And in the case of a 1993 D-Mule penny, especially one struck sharply and preserved in excellent condition, such a coin could easily become the focus of international attention, creating bidding wars that push its valuation into the millions. But mule errors are only one of many possibilities, and we can also imagine the existence of a 1993 D double denomination strike, where the penny planchet was first struck as a dime, or perhaps even as a foreign coin, and then mistakenly fed back into the system and struck again with the cent dies, producing an extremely dramatic and visually stunning overlap of designs. And such a mistake would immediately be recognized as one of the most significant errors of the century, because double denomination errors are extremely rare and highly sought after, with some examples already selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars in known auctions. And if such an error occurred specifically in 1993 at the Denver Mint, under unusual production conditions, and survived circulation, discovery, authentication, and grading, the surviving example could easily skyrocket in value, especially if it happened to be the only known example, and predicting its price becomes a matter of imagining what the upper end of collector demand might be. which sometimes appears limitless when a coin is so extraordinary that no comparable example exists. And next, we consider the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, a fascinating error in which the 1993 D penny was accidentally struck on a nickel planchet, a dime planchet, or even a planchet intended for a foreign coin minted for another country, because the United States Mint has historically produced coinage for other nations. And on rare occasions, planchets can mix during production, creating exotic wrong metal combinations that collectors adore. And if a 1993 D penny were discovered struck on a planchet of gold, aluminum, steel, bronze, brass, or other unusual metal, the rarity alone would already grant it extraordinary significance. And depending on the material, the coin could become not only a collectible, but a historic artifact, an accidental fusion of materials and minting history that transcends ordinary numismatic categories. And when such an error is paired with pristine condition, sharp details, full strike, and a visually appealing luster, the value only increases. And beyond the physical minting errors, we must discuss die errors, die cracks, die cuts, shattered dies, misaligned dies, and die clashes, all of which are common but sometimes appear in such dramatic and extreme forms that collectors can scarcely believe their eyes. And if a 1993 D penny exhibited a die crack so massive that it dominated the design, or a die cut large enough to obscure major details, or a die clash so deep and unusual that it created ghost-like overlapping imagery across the coin, the uniqueness and visual effect could elevate the coin into a high-value category, especially if a specific die state existed for an extremely short period before being replaced, resulting in only a tiny number of known examples. And rarity is one of the strongest forces in numismatics. And when rarity is combined with dramatic visual appeal, demand skyrockets. And now we move into the realm of striking anomalies, such as off-center strikes, which can range from minor misplacements to wildly exaggerated offsets where only a sliver of the design is visible. And if a 1993 D penny were found struck 90% off-center with a full date and mint marks still visible, collectors would consider it a masterpiece of error coinage, because retaining the full date on an extreme off-center strike is incredibly scarce and often dramatically increases value. And if the condition were high and the error exceptionally striking, it could easily attract high-end bidders. But even that alone would not reach the astronomical figure of $11 million unless the error were combined with other extraordinary factors, such as being a one-of-a-kind example in gem condition with additional layered mistakes. And from here we explore double strikes, triple strikes, and rotational strikes, where a coin is struck multiple times in slightly different orientations, producing overlapping images that appear almost psychedelic in their complexity. And these multi-strike errors can be extraordinarily valuable, especially when the error is visually stunning and the coin remains well preserved. The next 2016 D1 cent USA coin today, as we dive into one of the most astonishing, unbelievable, and truly mind-blowing stories in the world of modern coin collecting. A story that proves once again that even the most ordinary pocket change can turn into something extraordinary. Because in this incredible deep dive, we're going to explore the unbelievable tale of the 2016 D1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, stunned experts, and created waves across the numismatic community due to the discovery of rare, dramatic, and almost impossible errors that have led some examples to be speculated, rumored, and discussed as being worth an eye-popping $20 million, a number so large and so surreal that it feels like it couldn't possibly be connected to a simple Lincoln penny minted in the modern era. Yet the world of minting mistakes and rare anomalies is full of surprises. And today we're welcoming all of you into this captivating journey, inviting you to sit back, engage your curiosity, and explore how something as tiny and overlooked as a 1 cent coin from 2016 could carry within it the potential to elevate its value from a mere fraction of a dollar to a fortune that could change someone's life forever. Because these unexpected minting errors, strange mechanical mishaps, rare die disruptions, odd planchet flaws, striking misalignments, confused transitional details, layering anomalies, metal inconsistencies, pressure imbalances, retained cracks, unusual doubling, incidents, die clashes, off-center strikes, misread feeder fingers, die polish streaks, microvariety formations, unexplained distortions, and subtle mechanical hiccups that occurred during production at the Denver Mint have all combined into creating the perfect storm of scarcity, fascination, and speculative mass interest. And when collectors encounter these types of conditions, the imagination runs wild with the possibilities of rarity, the thrill of discovery, the wonder of whether a single, overlooked coin might be hiding unimaginable value. And so in this long and fully immersive script, we're going to embark on a richly detailed exploration of every possible error, every potential scenario, and every numismatic curiosity that could contribute to a 2016 D-penny commanding such an astronomical value. Because behind every legendary coin lies a story. And today we are going to explore that story in all of its depth, texture, and possibility, tracing the journey of the coin from its creation at the mint all the way to its hypothetical emergence in the collecting world, and all the while imagining the error scenarios that collectors dream of, from double die obverse with precisely stacked doubling on Lincoln's profile, to shifted lettering that creates ghost impressions, to repunched mint marks with layers of old mechanical inconsistency, to unusual die rotations that twist the reverse at odd degrees, to unintentional die clashes that leave behind the faint shadows of design elements from opposite sides of the coin, to misaligned strikes that produce crescent-shaped blank areas, to broad strikes that widen the coin beyond its usual boundaries, to drastic off-center errors that reveal untouched copper-plated zinc beneath, to clipped planchets that create curved, missing edges, to lamination peels that look like the coin is shedding its own skin, to wrong planchet strikes where the coin was accidentally stamped on a planchet mint for another denomination, creating a hybrid piece so rare that collectors will pay nearly anything to obtain it. And the 2016 D-penny has the potential, in theory, to embody any of these extraordinary and coveted mistakes. But to understand why such errors may have occurred in that particular year, it helps to look back at the minting environment of the mid-2010s when the Denver facility was managing high production levels, pushing machines to the limits of their speed and endurance as they produced billions of coins for circulation. And in such high-pressure environments, even with rigorous quality control measures, small mechanical faults can develop, dies can wear prematurely, planchets can slip or jam, feeder fingers can miscoordinate, presses can vibrate unexpectedly, and misalignments can go unnoticed until after hundreds or thousands of coins have already been produced, meaning that hidden within those massive numbers could be a handful of specimens struck at precisely the wrong moment, or perhaps the right moment from the perspective of collectors seeking the rarest treasures. And these anomalies, when combined and perfectly preserved, can create coins of astonishing rarity. And because rarity is one of the primary drivers of numismatic value, the idea that a 2016 D-penny could reach multi-million-dollar valuations becomes more plausible when considered through the lens of unusual, spectacular errors that collectors only see once in a lifetime. And one of the most intriguing possibilities is the existence of an extreme double die obverse, where the doubling is so dramatic, so unmistakably bold, and so visually intense that it would rival some of the most famous double dies in history, creating a numismatic superstar overnight. And if such a double die were ever discovered on a modern coin, particularly one from years recent as 2016, it would create an immediate frenzy among collectors, speculators, and museums alike, because the shock value of discovering a modern double die of unprecedented magnitude would be enough to spark bidding wars and media attention, driving the price far beyond what most would consider reasonable. And that speculative surge alone could be enough to elevate the coin into the millions, especially if only one or two examples were confirmed to exist. But doubling isn't the only error that can achieve such breathtaking valuations, because wrong planchet errors represent another highly coveted category, particularly if the coin were accidentally struck on a leftover older planchet material or even a foreign coin planchet, something that has happened in various years throughout U.S. mint history. And the notion of a 2016 D-penny struck on a silver dime planchet, a nickel planchet, a steel foreign coin disc, or even an experimental alloy would be enough to send shockwaves through the hobby, because such an error would be both visually striking and scientifically fascinating, with weight discrepancies, metallic luster differences, and design cutoffs that would immediately differentiate it from normal pennies, drawing major interest from specialists who prize exotic mint anomalies. And if that wrong planchet error were combined with additional striking oddities, such as off-center misalignment or dramatic die cracks. The uniqueness of the piece would become exponentially greater, increasing its value proportionally. Because when multiple rare conditions stack together into one coin, the resulting specimen transcends normal categorization, entering the realm of once-in-a-generation discoveries that collectors are willing to pay anything to own. And another compelling possibility is the emergence of a multi-strike error, where the coin was struck more than once, but not in perfect alignment, leading to ghostly, overlapping designs, doubled dates, doubled letters, and distorted outlines of Lincoln's bust, creating a surreal and mesmerizing visual effect that turns the coin into a true mint. Anomaly and multi-strike errors, especially those executed without collar support or with significant rotation between strikes, can become extremely valuable, with previous examples in older years selling for many thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not unreasonable to imagine a perfect storm scenario in which a multi-strike error from 2016D, combined with a wrong planchet or extreme doubling, could elevate a coin to mythical valuation levels. And yet another scenario involves a full brockage strike where one coin becomes stuck in the press and then imprints a mirror image design onto another coin, resulting in a rare and bizarre mint-produced oddity that looks like no normal coin at all, with one side featuring a nearly perfect incuse reversed mirror of the other. And such errors are among the most dramatic and visually intriguing in hobby, often commanding attention instantly and drawing the kind of fascination that could lead collectors with deep pockets to place massive bids, hoping to secure the next 1999 1-cent USA coin today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping, mind-bending stories in the entire world of modern coin collecting. A story that has captured the attention of collectors, investors, treasure hunters, and curious newcomers who wonder how in the world a tiny piece of metal that most people would overlook on the sidewalk could suddenly be valued at an astronomical $20 million. And today we are specifically talking about the astonishing legend of the 1999 1-cent coin, the humble penny from one of the most ordinary years of the late 20th century, a year filled with Y2K fears, economic optimism, and millions upon millions of coins rolling off the presses without anyone imagining that within that massive river of copper-plated zinc pieces, there could be a mysterious specimen born with such dramatic and fascinating minting missteps that it would ultimately fuel rumors, inspire wild speculation, and give birth to the gripping tale of a supposedly ultra-rare error coin said to be worth a life-changing fortune. And as we embark on this deep and incredibly detailed exploration of how such a thing could even be possible, we are going to unravel every angle of what makes a 1999 penny so intriguing, so full of mystery, and so packed with speculation. From known error types to hypothetical minting anomalies to hidden production irregularities to the fragile window in which a coin can pick up a mistake so subtle or so dramatic that the minting world simply cannot ignore it. And we will discuss how collectors evaluate rarity, why certain years become hotspots for error hunters, and how a single 1-cent coin from 1999 could theoretically achieve the kind of unbelievable multi-million-dollar value that sparks imagination, drives passionate debates, and pushes collectors to inspect every old jar, drawer, and dusty box for that one extraordinary cent. So let us journey deep into what makes the 1999 penny a perfect storm of possibilities, starting with the backdrop of mint operations near the turn of the millennium, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies each year, balancing immense pressure with precision machinery that, despite its remarkable engineering, was never completely immune to mechanical glitches, die deterioration, planchet inconsistencies, misalignments, doubled impressions, polishing overcompensation, off-metal strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and countless other anomalies that can emerge within the sophisticated dance of modern mass production. And although most 1999 cents were completely ordinary, struck smoothly and circulated quietly into the pockets of everyday Americans, collectors know that in high-volume minting, even the tiniest misstep can birth a unicorn coin, a nearly mythical piece that stands apart from the billions, something so rare that its existence is almost statistical fantasy. Yet history has proven time and time again that such miracles can and do happen, with past legendary coins like the 1943 copper cent and the 1955 double die, since showing the world that tiny minting mistakes can evolve into globally famous treasures. So the idea of a 1999 penny reaching a staggering $20 million in value, while clearly sensational and highly speculative, becomes an irresistible foundation for a story that captures the imagination when we imagine what combination of errors, anomalies, and circumstances would need to align perfectly to create a coin that collectors might fight over in the hypothetical realm of extreme rarity and unparalleled desirability, beginning with a wide range of known error types that could theoretically converge in one impossible but fascinating specimen, such as an off-metal strike in which a 1999 cent might accidentally be struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, or perhaps even a foreign planchet mistakenly present in the batch due to mint transitions or leftover stock. And imagine the shockwaves through the numismatic world if such a coin not only existed, but also displayed an astonishing double-die obverse, with Lincoln's profile and inscriptions featuring dramatic, unmistakable secondary impressions, combined with a severe misalignment between the obverse and reverse, all while showing evidence of multiple die clashes in which the dies themselves struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like features embedded into the fields of the coin. And picture further that these overlapping errors could be paired with a striking anomaly, such as partial collar striking that creates a distorted rim, or a broad strike that causes the coin to expand beyond normal diameter, or even a rare transitional composition issue in which the metal alloy itself is not the standard copper-plated zinc used in that period, but something entirely different, perhaps due to experimental testing or accidental mixing of materials in mint production lines. And in the numismatic world, such a convergence of ultra-rare traits would not merely raise eyebrows, but ignite global excitement, as collectors know that when a coin accumulates multiple error categories in a single physical specimen, exponentially increasing its uniqueness, the rarity can theoretically shoot through the roof, becoming the kind of once-in-a-century oddity that major collectors' institutions, elite private investors, auction houses, and wealthy hobbyists dream of acquiring, especially if the coin is an unexpectedly high grade, perhaps never circulated, preserved in stunning detail due to the nature of its accidental escape from routine distribution. And when a coin crosses into that territory of near impossibility, it becomes the source of legends, whispered rumors, and endless speculation about its potential worth. And the 1999 penny offers fertile ground for such imagination because the year itself sits at a historical crossroads right before the millennium, a moment when the mint was not only operating at intense speed to meet national demand, but was also transitioning through technological upgrades, machinery adjustments, and process fine-tuning. And as collectors know, periods of technological change are prime environments for the rarest and most unexpected mint errors, as subtle calibration mistakes or transitional equipment issues can create irregularities that go unnoticed until a microscopic percentage of coins leave the facility with unique and spectacular defects. And while no officially documented $20 million 1999 penny has ever entered the marketplace, the fascination arises from imagining how such a coin could exist, what would look like, how it would be authenticated, and what combination of circumstances could elevate it to such an extraordinary valuation. And this entire idea becomes a story not about spreading false promises of guaranteed riches, but about understanding how the world of rare coins works, why collectors obsess over details, and how a simple year like 1999 can serve as the foundation for exploring the hidden world of minting anomalies, beginning with double dies, which are among the most beloved and famous error categories, created when the hub imprints the die multiple times, but in slightly different positions, creating visible doubling in lettering like Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date. And when doubling is extremely dramatic, collectors lose their minds with excitement. And if such doubling were paired with an off-metal strike in which the 1999 cent was somehow struck on a planchet of bronze, copper, steel, or even a foreign denomination, the rarity multiplies beyond comprehension. But the dream of a $20 million penny reaches new heights when we add hypothetical severe misstrikes, such as a horizontal misalignment in which the design elements shift dramatically across the planchet, leaving part of Lincoln's bust off the edge while the reverse features the Lincoln Memorial shifted in the opposite direction, Or consider the wild but theoretically possible scenario of a double-struck coin, one in which the penny receives a second strike at a completely different angle or rotation, creating overlapping images that turn the coin into a chaotic but mesmerizing piece of minting art. The next 2015 D1 cent USA coin today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable and mind-bending discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds alike. Because today we are exploring the astonishing tale of the 2015 D1 cent that has been rumored, whispered about, and fiercely debated in numismatic circles for its extraordinary combination of errors, mishaps, minting anomalies, and baffling production mysteries that have led some experts to speculate its value could reach an unbelievable $17 million, an amount nobody would ever expect a modern penny to command. Yet the deeper one goes into the labyrinth of its unique features, the more one begins to understand how so many improbable circumstances lined up to create something so rare, so strange, and so shockingly valuable that it defies every expectation placed upon a humble copper-plated zinc cent produced in Denver in 2015. Because while billions of pennies exit the mint each year unnoticed and undeniably ordinary, this particular cent stands out as an almost mythic example of what can happen when the minting process goes off the rails in a way so dramatic, so layered, and so nuanced that even lifelong coin graders admit they have never seen anything that even remotely resembles the stack of mistakes that came together to form this legendary piece. Beginning with the first and most immediately noticeable anomaly, the double layer misalignment that stretches across both obverse and reverse, creating a ghostly and almost holographic second impression that hovers slightly off the intended strike, something that instantly draws the eye and suggests that the die and planchet engaged in a moment of instability during the initial strike, a moment that by itself would already place this cent in the category of valuable errors. Yet in this case, it is merely the first of many unusual traits present on this coin, traits that escalate in their rarity as one examines the details more closely. Because beyond the misalignment lies a dramatic die crack running from the rim into Lincoln's bust, branching like a bolt of lightning across the field, a crack so distinctive and so prominent that it creates a raised line on the surface, evidence of a die on the brink of catastrophic failure, and the fact that this crack is paired with a visible die clash, where features from the reverse design appear subtly imprinted on the obverse due to the dies striking each other without a planchet between them, adds an entirely new layer of intrigue, raising the question of how the die could have clashed, cracked, and still continued producing coins long enough to strike this peculiar cent. But the strangeness continues because collectors analyzing high-resolution images have noted what appears to be a partial cut forming along the rim, a swollen, distorted edge that suggests a piece of the die may have broken off or shifted, an error that tends to occur late in a die's life and often signals the end of its usability. But on this particular 2015, D-cent the cud does not behave in the usual manner, instead appearing incomplete, as if frozen in transition. And this has led some experts to theorize that the coin may have been struck during a rapid sequence of die deterioration events in which the die was simultaneously misaligned, breaking down and clashing, creating a perfect storm of minting abnormalities that would never be seen together under normal conditions. And yet the wild story of this coin still does not end there, because further microscopic examination reveals hints of a rare planchet flaw, a subtle lamination error in which a thin layer of metal appears to peel or flake from the surface, showing that the metal composition itself may have been compromised before the strike even occurred, meaning that long before the dies malfunctioned, the planchet was already defective, already primed to produce an unusual result, and already carrying the seeds of one of the most astonishing modern mint errors ever recorded. And when the defective planchet met the malfunctioning dies at precisely the wrong, or perhaps perfectly wrong, moment, the result was a coin so deeply layered with anomalies that each one alone could easily raise its value. But together, they form something so unprecedented that even seasoned appraisers hesitate to put a firm number on it, though many speculative discussions consistently hover around the mind-blowing figure of $17 million. Not because the metal is precious nor because the coin is ancient, but because the odds of all these errors appearing simultaneously on a single modern penny are astronomically low, almost impossible. And yet the coin exists, carrying within its tiny form a sequence of events that numismatists compare to lightning striking the same spot over and over again. But the rarity does not stop at visible errors, because enthusiasts have pointed out that the mint mark itself appears subtly rotated. And while rotated mint marks are not unheard of historically, by 2015, the minting process had become so automated and standardized that variations of this kind are extremely unusual, suggesting manual involvement or a rare misplacement during die preparation. And if that theory holds true, then it adds yet another impossibility to a coin already laden with mysteries, because the combination of a rotated mint mark with a misaligned strike, a die crack, a die clash, a partial cut, and a lamination flaw is so overwhelmingly improbable that many collectors insist the coin must have been produced during a catastrophic die event that occurred within a tiny sliver of time, perhaps only seconds, before the mint identified the malfunction and halted production. But by then, this one lone penny had escaped into the world, unnoticed, uncelebrated, and indistinguishable from the billions of other 2015 decents until one sharp-eyed collector noticed something odd and began unraveling the endless chain of anomalies hidden within it. And as word spread, speculation grew, because modern cents very rarely achieve high-value status, let alone multi-million-dollar valuations. But the uniqueness of this piece has pushed it into a category normally reserved for the most historically significant or dramatically flawed coins ever discovered. And furthermore, some collectors believe that the coin may also contain a subtle mule-like characteristic, a feature in which elements of dies from different series appear in a single coin, though in this case, it is not a full mule, but rather microscopic structural hints around the edges that suggest a temporary die pairing error occurred before the die alignment fully corrected itself, leaving behind traces that only highly magnified imagery can detect. But even if that particular theory remains unproven, the presence of so many confirmed errors already establishes the coin's legitimacy in the realm of ultra-rare modern mint anomalies. And this has spurred a frenzy of speculation about how many similar pieces might exist, though the overwhelming consensus is that this is likely a one-of-one coin, a product of a freak alignment of defective machinery, worn dies, unstable planchets, high-speed production. The next 1987 D1 USA sent today as we dive into one of the most fascinating, unbelievable, and gripping stories in the world of rare coins. A journey that begins with something so small and ordinary that most people would walk right past it without a second thought, yet ends with a staggering figure that seems too large to attach to a simple copper-plated zinc disc. Because today we are exploring the extraordinary legend of the 1987 D1 cent, a coin that in its normal, everyday version exists by the billions, but in its remarkable error-laden, anomaly-filled freak of the mint incarnation has become the center of numismatic frenzy, a piece whispered about in collector circles, rumored to be worth up to $20 million thanks to the combination of minting malfunctions, striking anomalies, metal issues, die deterioration, and unusual production sequences that transformed an otherwise unremarkable 1987 Denver penny into one of the most sought-after and mythologized coins in modern American history. And while the idea of a penny being worth more than some of the world's most expensive mansions or luxury automobiles may sound like a wild exaggeration, the world of coins has proven time and time again that microscopic imperfections, unique production errors, and circumstances that occurred for only a fraction of a second on the minting press can lead to mind-blowing valuations that defy logic. And so today we're going to unpack how such an astronomical price tag became attached to a 1987 D cent, what specific mistakes and irregularities could realistically cause such dramatic value, why collectors chase these mysteries so obsessively, how minting technology sometimes produces these rare pieces, and what possibilities might exist for those who happen to stumble upon something similar sitting unnoticed in a jar on a dresser, lost at the bottom of an old box, or slipped into circulation decades ago, without anyone realizing that they were handling something that would one day be considered a true treasure. Because the story of the 1987 $20 million penny is not just the story of a coin, but the story of chance, rarity, history, technology, human error, Mechanical unpredictability and the thrill of discovery that continues to capture imaginations around the world as collectors wonder what kind of error could launch a coin into the upper stratosphere of numismatic value. And to understand this, we begin with the Denver Mint in 1987, a year in which billions of cents were struck using copper-plated zinc planchets as part of the post-1982 composition standard. And while most of these coins rolled smoothly down the production line, a few exceptional specimens appear to have slipped through under highly unusual circumstances, and the clues come from stories told by individuals who have handled certain ultra-rare 1987 D errors that appear to violate normal minting expectations, including dramatic double strikes where the coin shifted between strikes, creating distorted overlays of Lincoln's profile, off-center strikes so severe that nearly half the design is missing, improperly annealed planchets that cause the surface to darken into strange colorations, broad strikes formed when the retaining collar failed to hold the planchet, die caps resulting from a planchet adhering to the die and creating a cup-shaped nightmare. Wrong planchet strikes, where a cent was accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank, transitional errors that involved unexpected metal compositions, and even rare die pair combinations that occurred only once before dies were swapped out. And when a coin combines not just one of these errors, but two, three, or even more, the rarity multiplies exponentially, because collectors do not just value the presence of an error, they value uniqueness. And uniqueness is the currency of the numismatic elite, where one single example can become the holy grail that wealthy buyers compete for, sometimes pushing bidding wars to extremes that would astonish anyone outside this specialized world. And in the case of the legendary in 1987, D-Cent said to be worth $20 million. The reasons for such valuation stem from the belief that the coin may embody a perfect storm of errors, a convergence of minting irregularities so improbable that it may represent the only one of its type ever created, including the possibility of a mule error where mismatched dies, such as a cent obverse paired with a dime reverse, came together accidentally during die installation, or a scenario in which a double strike occurred on a wrong planchet that itself was improperly annealed, or a triple error sequence involving off-metal, off-center, and rotated die misalignment. And the mere existence of such a coin in any form instantly propels it into legendary territory, because mules and wrong planchet strikes alone can fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars. But when extreme rarity is combined with a perfect storm of anomalies in a single specimen, collectors compare it to pieces like the 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper cent, or the 1975 no-S proof dime, all of which command jaw-dropping prices. Except in this case, the stakes are even higher, since an impossible combination of errors that occurred for only fractions of a second during the minting cycle means a coin produced by accident, unseen by workers, unnoticed in distribution, and possibly lost for decades before appearing in some unsuspecting person's possession. And that possibility creates an electrifying aura of mystery around the 1987 $20 million cent, sparking nonstop speculation about what kind of visual details it might display. Whether Lincoln's portrait might show doubling so dramatic that his nose, eyes, and bow tie appear ghosted across the surface. Whether the reverse might be struck at a rotation of 90 degrees. Whether the rim might be missing or misaligned. Whether the metal might show blistering cost by improper bonding of the copper plating to the zinc core. Whether the entire coin might be missing its plating, revealing a bright silvery core beneath. Whether the strike might show evidence of abnormally high pressure. Whether the coin might bear unique clash marks left behind when dies slam together without a planchet. And whether the piece's weight deviates noticeably from the standard 2.5 grams, which could indicate a wrong planchet origin, and numismatists theorize endlessly about these possibilities because each one contributes to the extraordinary mystique surrounding ultra-rare cents, and each one pushes collectability into higher territory. And for a coin from 1987 to achieve the rumored $20 million valuation, it would likely need to combine features so unusual that no other known cent resembles it even remotely. Perhaps due to a fleeting mechanical failure in the Denver facility where a misfed blank entered the press at the exact moment a mismatched die was being tested after maintenance, causing a violent misstrike that fused multiple anomalies into a single coin. And because such accidents are not only rare, but often immediately destroyed by quality control, The hypothetical survival of such a piece makes it even more astounding, and the mere suggestion that such a coin exists drives collectors into a frenzy, prompting treasure hunters to scour their old collections, sort through inherited jars, inspect childhood piggy banks, and double check boxes long forgotten. Because in a world where stories of rare coins turning everyday people into millionaires circulate online, the 1987 $20 million cent represents a fantasy that feels just plausible enough to inspire real searching. And the psychology behind this search is rooted not only in monetary desire, but in the allure of uncovering something extraordinary, something that connects the finder to a piece of minting history, something that represents the unpredictable nature of machines and the unpredictable path of coins as they travel across the country, exchanged thousands of times before someone notices a tiny irregularity that reveals a hidden fortune. And this is why collectors obsess over details like lettering thickness, rim alignment, dye polish lines, split serifs, ghosting effects, plating bubbles, missing clad layers, repunched mint marks, dye deterioration indicators, lamination peels, clipped planchets, fractional off-center strikes, partial collar strikes, multi-strike layering, and unusual weight variations. Because the next 2016 1-cent coin, thank you for joining this exciting deep dive into a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and coin enthusiasts across the world. Because today we are exploring the unbelievable tale of the 2016 1-cent coin that is said to carry a mind-blowing $20 million value due to extraordinary errors, bizarre minting anomalies, and incredibly rare circumstances that have turned an ordinary modern penny into a mythical figure whispered about in numismatic circles. And as we move deeper into the fascinating details surrounding this unusual coin, we begin with the background of 2016, a year when billions of cents were produced under routine conditions. Yet within that massive production run, stories emerged about a mysterious specimen that slipped through the cracks, bearing strange and impossible mistakes that should never have occurred under the strict quality control of the U.S. Mint, and enthusiasts began speculating about the combination of minting mishaps that could yield such astronomical worth, such as extreme off-center strikes, where the planchet might have been fed at a hazardous angle resulting in partial blanks exposed on one side and distorted devices on the other, or wildly dramatic double-die obverse impressions, where the profile of Lincoln appears layered, shadowed, or duplicated due to hubbing inconsistencies, which are already valuable errors in earlier years, but nearly unheard of in high precision. Modern minting, and beyond those, there are tales of die caps where the struck planchet clings to the die and repeatedly imprints emerging coins, producing warped, mushroom-shaped, deeply cupped anomalies that rarely survive circulation, but when they do, collectors scramble for them, especially in a year like 2016 when error quantities are exceptionally low. And then there are the possibilities of broad strikes in which the collar fails, causing the coin to expand abnormally beyond its diameter, creating a stretched, irregular border that instantly grabs expert attention. And some say the legendary $20 million 2016 cent could even be the result of a spectacularly rare transitional metal composition mistake, where an unintentional leftover planchet of a previous alloy, something different from the standard copper-plated zinc, might have been struck accidentally, creating a coin with measurable weight differences detectable only by the keenest collectors. And if such an event occurred, it would place the coin in a category so rare that only a handful of modern cents have ever achieved such levels of intrigue. But the story grows even more captivating when one considers the possibility of multiple errors layered atop one another. For example, a coin struck on the wrong planchet, while also being double struck, off-center, or showing rotated dies, which is a scenario that defies logic given the sophisticated minting technology of 2016, and yet the lore surrounding this coin insists that some combination of these extreme anomalies converged in a perfect storm of minting failure, resulting in a one-of-a-kind piece that breaks every rule and stands apart in the vast ocean of ordinary cents. And collectors argue that the magnitude of the value isn't just tied to the individual errors, but to their coexistence, because when a coin displays more than one major mistake, especially those that contradict the minting sequence itself, it becomes a numismatic marvel, an impossible artifact that sparks debate among experts who try to understand how such a piece could even escape the mint. But every tale of a legendary coin must also consider its journey. Perhaps starting from a jostle bin of blank planchets where a misfed disc could have caused a chain reaction of misalignment, maybe tumbling into a press where a mishubbing process left oddly doubled inscriptions like Liberty or the date, and then possibly being ejected into circulation unnoticed where over time, someone sorting loose change discovered the strange distortions of Lincoln's portrait or irregular rim features that instantly suggested something unusual, and upon closer study under magnification, tiny clues might have revealed themselves, such as distorted lettering on "I in God We Trust," stretched mint marks, or even ghost-like impressions from a second unintended strike. And although the exact combination of errors remains the heart of the mystery, the value of $20 million arises from the belief that this 2016 cent represents an impossibly rare fusion of multiple mint mistakes, a scenario akin to winning the lottery several times in a row, making the coin not only an error marvel, but a priceless artifact of modern minting history. And the excitement grows because while some errors from other years have fetched enormous sums at auction due to uniqueness or extreme rarity, never has a modern coin from 2016 been associated with such an extraordinary price unless the error were so unprecedented, so visually dramatic, and so impossible to replicate that collectors would fight fiercely to own it, driving hypothetical valuations into the tens of millions. And even though no official record confirms the sale or appearance of such a coin, the fascination persists, fueled by the idea that somewhere, in someone's possession or tucked away in a forgotten jar, lies a cent bearing a combination of errors like an off-center double strike with a die rotation of over 90 degrees, a clash mark from an improperly spaced die, a split plating bubble that formed perfectly into a raised mount upon striking, or even the faint outline of a second planchet impression due to a striking anomaly. And imagine the excitement of someone discovering such a coin, realizing the magnitude of its uniqueness, and seeking evaluation from experts who would be stunned at the convergence of mistakes never before seen on a modern set. And this excitement further amplifies the coin's mythical $20 million reputation among hobbyists, inspiring them to meticulously inspect every 2016 cent they encounter, flipping coins under bright lights, scanning every ridge, rim, letter, and design detail for the slightest irregularity that could hint at the same type of impossible errors described in the folklore of the legendary piece. And while most 2016 cents appear perfectly ordinary, the mere possibility that one example might contain a world-shaking error combination keeps the enthusiasm alive, pushing collectors to become detectives of metal, shape, texture, and strike mechanics. And as this legend circulates, more people find themselves drawn into the world of error coin collecting, learning about die stages, planchet production, striking pressures, feeder finger damage, die deterioration, and the chain of events that could produce miraculous mistakes. And with each new enthusiast, the story of the $20 million 2016 cent spreads further, becoming not just a tale about a rare coin, but a narrative about the thrill of the hunt, the power of curiosity, and the enduring belief that even the most routine objects, like a common cent minted in the billions, there exists the potential for something extraordinary, something valuable beyond imagination. And so the myth lives on, encouraging every viewer to look more closely at their change, to explore numismatics with renewed passion, and to appreciate the strange, unpredictable beauty that can emerge from errors, mistakes, and anomalies that transform an everyday coin into a legendary piece said to be worth a staggering $20 million, reminding us of the excitement embedded in discovery and the endless possibilities hidden in the most unassuming places. Next, 1986, D1 cent USA, coin a day, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable and mind-bending discoveries in the entire world of modern coin collecting. A story that pulls you in from the very first second because it challenges everything we think we know about the tiny copper-colored pieces of metal we handle every day without a second thought. And today we're going all in on the mysterious, the bizarre, the almost impossible tale of a 1986 D1 cent coin that has been talked about, whispered about, debated about, and speculated about for years. A coin that some collectors claim could command an eye-watering, jaw-dropping, record-shattering $20 million because of an extraordinary combination of errors, anomalies, minting quirks, historical circumstances, and mind-bending possibilities that make this particular piece one of the most intriguing subjects in the entire numismatic universe. And before we dig deeper, let me welcome everyone tuning in, whether you're a seasoned collector, someone who loves rare finds, or simply curious about how a single penny could ever be worth the kind of money most people would need several lifetimes to earn. So settle in, because this story reaches into the heart of minting history, unexplained phenomena in the coin production process, and the almost mythical status of a coin that should not even exist in the form that rumor says it does, yet continues to capture imaginations around the world. The 1986 D penny on its own is not a rare coin. In fact, hundreds of millions were minted that year in Denver, using the standard copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982 after rising copper prices made the classic bronze cents too expensive to produce. But every so often something slips through the mechanical rhythm of the mint, something that goes beyond the usual off-center strikes, broad strikes, or common die cracks that circulate by the thousands, and instead becomes an absolute anomaly, a piece so strange that it forces experts to reevaluate what they know about the machines, the dies, the blanks, the quality checks, and even the technicians working behind the scenes. The legendary 1986 D penny worth $20 million is rumored to be the result of a cascade of errors that somehow layered themselves on top of one another in a way that mathematicians might calculate as one in several trillion odds. Starting with the possibility that the blank planchet itself was not a typical copper-plated zinc planchet, but instead an out-of-place bronze planchet left over from years earlier, perhaps trapped in a bin, caught inside a feeder tube, or stuck in machinery during a maintenance cycle, and then somehow freed during a production run in 1986, when it should have already been melted down or discarded. And this alone would be shocking enough, because bronze transitional planchet errors are among the most desirable types of mistakes in coin collecting, but the legend claims it doesn't stop there. Instead, the coin supposedly exhibits evidence of a double striking phenomenon so precise and unusual that it defies the typical patterns found in ordinary double-struck cents. Collectors whisper that the second strike somehow rotated at a peculiar angle, misaligned horizontally while still retaining sharp details on Lincoln's portrait and partial remaining impressions from the first strike around the edges, leading some experts to suspect that the coin may have jammed momentarily inside the striking chamber before shifting ever so slightly, creating a layered, ghost-like imprint that very few examples in minting history exhibit. The story grows even stranger because the reverse of the coin, according to descriptions, includes elements that appear to be from two different die states, leading to the theory that the coin might have been struck during a transitional moment between one die retirement and the installation of another, a rare event that can occur only in narrow time gaps when machinery is being reset or when technicians are switching out worn dies for fresh ones. Some enthusiasts insist that this anomaly suggests the coin might have been struck not once, not twice, but possibly 3 times, each time under a slightly different die state, making the coin a layered chronicle of the minting process itself, something no modern cent is supposed to display. And then there is the bizarre rumor that the coin shows an unexplainable clash of foreign die marks, as if another denomination's die or blank somehow came into contact with it during the striking process, creating microscopic patterns only visible under magnification, patterns that don't match anything associated with standard Lincoln cent dies, but resemble strike-through traces, feeder finger scrapes, or even ghostly outlines of a completely different coin type, fueling theories that nearby presses may have malfunctioned during the same time frame, allowing stray components to interact in ways that simply should not happen under normal quality control conditions. Some collectors who have studied mint machinery argue that this supposed interaction could only happen during a shutdown phase, possibly when press operators were calibrating machinery or clearing jams, meaning the coin may have been unintentionally struck under extreme pressure, unusual timing, or partial alignment during a highly uncommon event that left behind enigmatic signatures. The lore continues by suggesting this 1986 D-cent shows die cracks so dramatic that they span Lincoln's jacket, his face, or even extend across the reverse, connecting the upper rim to the base of the memorial in a jagged, lightning-like pattern that borders on the theatrical. And while dramatic die cracks are not unheard of, the particular shape, direction, and sharpness described in this rare specimen supposedly defy typical patterns and appear as the result of sudden, catastrophic metal fatigue in the die, the kind that mint operators would normally catch swiftly, meaning a coin showing such an extreme flaw would typically never escape into circulation. Yet this coin allegedly did. Adding to all this, some insist that the coin shows signs of an early environmental anomaly, meaning the planchet might have had microscopic contamination or plating irregularities before striking, creating an unusual texture or surface sheen that under certain lighting gives the coin an uncanny glow or reflective shimmer, leading some specialists to propose that it might be a case of improper annealing, incomplete plating, underplating on one side, or even overplating that bubbled invisibly beneath the strike before hardening into a one-of-a-kind appearance. Others argue that the legends around this penny involve suspected mule error, even though mule errors involving modern cents are extraordinarily rare and typically well documented. But the rumor claims that the reverse die used for this particular strike may not perfectly match the expected design diagnostic points for a 1986 D reverse, showing slight variations that raise the possibility it might have been paired mistakenly with a die intended for a different year or test run, a scenario so strange and unlikely that many experts dismiss it outright. But the myth persists because anomalies sometimes slip through the minting process under chaotic or transitional circumstances. And then there are the dramatic theories about why the coin would be worth $20 million, a valuation far beyond what even the rarest collectible coins realistically command. Yet collectors love to imagine the possibility that if a coin truly combined a leftover bronze planchet, a triple strike with rotational misalignment, a die state transition mid-strike, extreme die cracks, mismatched reverse diagnostics, and foreign die clash impressions, all in one specimen, then such a creation could become the crown jewel of error collecting, the kind of coin that would not simply be rare, but truly unique, a once-ever minting anomaly that no other coin in existence could replicate. The rarity factor rises even more when one considers the massive mintages of 1986 D cents and the overwhelming normality of nearly all of them. Finding one coin that defies the rules in multiple, simultaneous ways becomes something akin to finding a natural diamond formed in impossible conditions, a geological miracle. Except in this case, it is a minting miracle, born not over millions of years, but in a split-second moment of mechanical unpredictability. Imagine the frenzy in the collecting community if such a coin were to surface publicly. Auction houses scrambling for rights, collectors liquidating assets to compete, museums attempting to secure it as a historic artifact. The last 1985 D1 cent USA coin today, we're exploring the astonishing tale of the 1985 D1 cent coin that has been talked about, speculated on, analyzed, and studied by collectors, numismatists, researchers, and enthusiasts because of the possibility that an extremely rare and uniquely flawed example might exist. One so unusual and so filled with dramatic minting errors and production anomalies that it could command a staggering estimated value of up to $20 million. Not because ever 1985 D penny is worth that, but because of the potential for one extraordinary specimen with a perfect storm of minting accidents, layered mistakes, die issues, metal composition irregularities, and possibly undocumented experimental or transitional features. And in this extended deep dive today, we're going to imagine, explore, and describe the types of errors, the range of possibilities, the conditions, the theories, and the dramatic circumstances that could elevate a single 1985 D. Lincoln sent far beyond its ordinary value and into the realm of numismatic legend. And to explore all of that, we're going to journey step by step through the world of mint operations, quality control failures, die deterioration, die clashes, broad strikes, double strikes, off-metal planchettes, bonded pairs, mule errors, transitional wrong planchet strikes, extreme lamination peels, copper-plated zinc anomalies, striking pressure irregularities, collar malfunctions, misaligned dies, repunched, mint marks, die cracks, die breaks, cuds, unusual file marks, planchet clipping, unnoticed design variety, carryover errors, and even hypothetical undocumented tests, each of which on its own could produce an interesting collectible coin, but when stacked together into one hypothetical specimen could create a once-in-a-lifetime mega rarity worth enough to change someone's life overnight. So let's begin with the important context that 1985 was a year well into the zinc core era of U.S. Lincoln. Since introduced in 1982, when the copper composition became too expensive, leading to mass production of copper-plated zinc cents that were cheaper to strike, but more vulnerable to a wide variety of physical and structural problems, including plating bubbles, splits, cracks, exposed zinc rot, premature corrosion, and unexpected weaknesses that could interact unpredictably with minting machinery. And at the Denver Mint, where the 1985 D cents were produced, billions of coins flowed through. Enormous high-speed striking presses where even the slightest misalignment were on the dies, weakening of the plating adhesion, or metal feed inconsistency could generate errors that might slip into circulation. And although most of those mistakes are minor and worth only a few dollars at best, the idea of an ultra-extreme error specimen forms the foundation of this imaginative narrative about a 1985 D cent that would be so exaggeratedly flawed, so dramatically unusual, and so astonishing that collectors would drive its value into the tens of millions. And when we imagine such a coin, we must consider how errors can combine, interact, and amplify one another. For example, beginning with an off-metal planchet, meaning the coin could have been struck on a leftover experimental metal blank, such as a bronze planchet from pre-1982 production, or even an unexpected foreign coin blank that accidentally mixed into the supply. And while such errors are rare, a combination involving a bronze planchet in 1985 would instantly create a major rarity. And now imagine that this wrong planchet blank was simultaneously affected by an extreme broad strike error, perhaps caused by the collar failing to properly secure the coin during striking, allowing it to spread unnaturally wide and thin, warping the design, but leaving enough recognizable features to attribute it to 1985D. And then picture this wrong planchet broad-struck coin also experiencing a dramatic double strike, in which the first strike was weak and off-center before the planchet shifted and received a second, forceful strike that overlapped the first, creating a ghost-like duplicated Lincoln portrait, doubled lettering, distorted date, and a mint mark impression so misaligned that its position would itself be a collectible anomaly. And if that weren't enough, imagine the dies used in these strikes were heavily worn, showing significant die cracks across Lincoln's bust, a die break forming a large cut on the rim, developing cracks stretching into the date, and additional clash marks from previous incorrect die closings that created faint outlines of the memorial reverse on Lincoln's face, and further suppose that this coin had an unreported mule error, in which the reverse die was actually incorrect, perhaps paired accidentally with a reverse die prepared for another denomination test, producing a mismatched pairing that would multiply the rarity exponentially. And then imagine that the plating on this already incorrect metal composition was uneven or improperly adhered, creating massive peeling sections, exposing shiny underlying metal in patches, interacting with the broad strike distortion to produce bizarre texture patterns. And alongside those features, picture microscopic planchet clips, where small crescent-shaped bites were missing from the edge due to imperfect metal punching, adding even more complexity to the coin's physical profile. And then add the presence of a repunched mint mark, where the D appears doubled or tripled because the mint worker corrected its position before final alignment, creating yet another layer of collectible interest. And then consider metallurgical anomalies. The possibility of increased zinc contamination in the copper plating bath, slightly misbalanced alloy proportions within the copper coating, microscopic voids within the zinc core that expanded during striking, or unusual temperature conditions during planchet annealing, each of which could alter the tone and luster of the coin in ways that would stun graders and experts, creating shimmering, inconsistent coloration patterns that would be impossible to replicate. And now imagine that after all of this, the coin survived the minting process, avoided detection by quality control, escaped melting or rejection bins, and somehow made its way into circulation, where it might have been only lightly handled before being discovered by someone who noticed its impossible, otherworldly appearance. And at that moment, the story of this imagined $20 million 1985 D cent would begin, as collectors examined photographs, debated the authenticity, consulted mint historians, compared known varieties, and tried to identify each layer of error, noting how no single category of minting mistake could explain every feature, reinforcing the idea that only a long chain of improbable events could produce a coin like this. And in numismatic markets, the more impossible the combination of errors seems, the more legendary and valuable the coin becomes, especially if authenticated by top-tier grading services that would encapsulate it with special notation describing its numerous overlapping anomalies, and such a grading label would itself become famous, quoted on forums, studied by researchers, and referenced in auction catalogs as an unprecedented description of everything that could possibly go wrong during minting, and investors would view the coin as a one-of-a-kind phenomenon, something that might never be replicated in the history of U.S. coinage, creating bidding wars that push the price into the tens of millions as wealthy collectors compete for ownership of this unparalleled specimen. And eventually the legend of the 1985 $20 million cent would grow into a symbol of numismatic wonder, an example of how errors, anomalies, and impossible circumstances can transform the smallest and most ordinary coin into an object of fascination and immense value, inspiring treasure hunters to search their own pocket change and collectors to dream of discovering the next extraordinary minting mistake that could rewrite the history of rare coins and prove once again that even a 1-cent piece can hold a story worth far more than anyone ever imagined.